Okay. So the Pistons. Gator, you linked the NBA power rankings according to The Athletic.
Mm-hmm.
The top-tier contenders, and there are, 5 teams in that category. The top-tier contenders for the NBA title are the Boston Celtics, San Antonio Spurs, the Houston Rockets, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Detroit Pistons, which is really, really interesting. Denver is not in that group, but with Jokic missing quite a bit of time. And who else is out tonight? Isn't Aaron Gordon? Aaron Gordon will not play tonight against the Pistons. He's been out, but they've had a bunch of guys banged up. Have the Denver Nuggets, and that's factor. But right now, I guess the Athletics considering on the outside looking in. Here's a critical question that the Pistons need to ask themselves, and that we all need to think about. If in the back of your mind, you can't shake the feeling that you think this group is good enough and you don't want to see a major trade. And I think that there's probably quite a few of you out there that believe that want to keep this core together and don't want to break it up and think they can make a run. The question I have is, do you believe that because you think they can win the East as constructed, or do you believe that because you think they can win the NBA title as constructed? And the reason we bring it up is the Pistons are 33-11. They have only 6 losses. They're 22-6 against the East. They're 11-5 against the West. And against the West, they have really only truly played maybe one title contender in Houston. They played them twice and they've split. And the last time they played them, obviously, was this past Friday night in a frustrating loss. And if you consider the Lakers a title contender, they did beat the Lakers. But it's hard to know how they stack up against the West. They haven't played Oklahoma City. They'll play a depleted Denver team tonight. They haven't played San Antonio. They're 1-1 against Houston, which, I mean, maybe that's fine to be 1-1 against Houston. You can make an argument that it is fine. But it's really hard to know if they truly are NBA title contenders. And should this impact their trade strategy? And the reason I bring it up is because you sort of think of a team that is building. They're building towards trying to win it all. And so it kind of feels like it's okay just to win the East this year. You know what I'm saying? If they get to the NBA Finals, that will be a resounding success. But you kind of trick around, and the next thing you know, you're the Lions, and the Lions are still in a good place. But, we started with, hey, how about hosting a playoff game? Holy crap, they did that. How about winning a playoff game? Holy crap, they did that. How about winning multiple playoff games? Holy crap, they did that. How about, they made it to the NFC title game, and that was pretty good, but now it's get to the Super Bowl. And they come back the next year and they go 15-2, and they're the number 1 seed. But all they did was check boxes they'd already checked. They won the division. They'd already checked that. They were, home for the playoffs, and then they lose as the number 1 seed. With the Pistons, it feels like they're building towards something. And I mean, right now, it's ridiculous to think that winning the East isn't a great season. But
correct.
Should they be acting like a team that's trying to win the NBA?
Well, I think they can. Because the way that I look at it, you can make additions to this team and be additions that'll be here for the future as well, without really completely disrupting what you have. If you think about this team next year, if you don't make moves, if you don't make any trades, Tobias Harris is likely not to be on this team next year, correct? He's got the expiring contract. Mm-hmm. I doubt that they're going to sign him to a new contract.
I don't know.
I'm just saying.
It's certainly possible.
I would be surprised.
The way you hear the Piston players gush about Tobias, you'd think you'd never want to let him go, but he'll be an unrestricted free agent next year, and I would imagine he's only coming back at his age Less money?
I'm going to assume that. Okay. All right. So that he's not part of the plans for next year. And maybe that's part of the camaraderie. Why they love it right now is because, hey, we got him in the last year. He's going to be here. We're going to enjoy him while he's here. I'm not sure Jaden Ivey's going to be here next year if you don't make any trades, right? Because he hasn't made a significant impact on the team this year. He's been slow to come back from the injuries that he had, because it's not just the broken leg from last year. I mean, it was a knee injury that he suffered after he'd recovered from that. So that's a problem. So is it possible to think that this team could add now at the trade deadline if they were to use those two components along with draft capital and get somebody significant in return? And I think the answer is yes. So if I'm doing that and I'm getting a player in return that has under a contract that'll be here for the next couple of years, that I haven't really impacted negatively on what we have currently and in a window for the future.
Yeah,
I think they can get something done with doing what I said. If you could trade Ivey and Tobias Harris and a first-round pick or a combination of picks, whatever you want, and maybe one of the other, guards that come off the bench, if that's going to be a sweetener that, again, wouldn't have much of an impact on your roster now, but you end up landing that 3-and-D player that maybe puts you over the top, that guy that can be the secondary scorer behind Cade on a consistent basis that's going to pour in 18 to 22 points a game or whatever. I think those moves are there, and I think that's what's going to be what Trajan Langdon is going to have to look at.
It's really a question of what's appropriate. How aggressive should they get? Because it's hard to know how they stack up against the West, having really only played Houston out of the West with a game against the Lakers as well. But they have all the games against the teams in the West ahead of them, like the real contenders. Should they get super aggressive to try and win the NBA? Or is that move still a year away? Like they use Tobias's money and Ivey's money to be a big player in free agency. And I kind of want to see what this group can do, but you'd hate to see the trade deadline come and go because they don't play Oklahoma City until after the trade deadline.
That's why I don't want to talk about moving guys like Duren for sure and Asar Thompson and Ron Holland, because those are guys that have room to grow to be even better. Like if you hang on to these guys, how much better are they going to be next year? How much more impactful will they be next year? And I think the answer is probably much more impactful as their careers matriculate. When I think about the Eastern Conference, right now it's the Pistons to take because of injuries throughout the other really good teams in the conference. Those guys are going to come back next year. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden you've got a really tough Indiana team, a really tough Boston team, and Cleveland and whatnot, along with the Pistons. But the Pistons can still continue to grow because they are so young and they have the opportunity of adding without disrupting your core.
Feels like they're clearly a legitimate contender to win the East, but should they be thinking about more this year? And we put that in the context of three teams that plenty of people complain about them not thinking about more.
Right.
Red Wings, Tigers, Lions.
Now the other thing is,
and yet I feel like Detroit almost doesn't want this team to break up the core. Sorry to interrupt.
I was just going to say, you keep bringing up the Western Conference, and I understand it because it's like you want a yardstick, a barometer to compare yourself against. I don't know if I really care that much about the Western Conference at this point. I want to be the best team in the East and get to the finals, and then we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I mean, and that's sort of the point. Because if you're in that mode, then you don't need to get aggressive. You don't need to break it up. You don't need to do something super aggressive. 248-539-9797. We talk to you next. Karsch and Anderson, 97.1.